India is paying last respects to its fallen heroes. The wreath-laying ceremony of Rifleman Suman Swargiary of 46 Assam Rifles was held in Jorhat today. The mortal remains of Rifleman R.P. Meena was also brought to Jaipur today, where people paid their last respects to the brave heart. A total of 5 soldiers were killed in a terror attack on a convoy of Assam Rifles in Churachandpur on Saturday. This was in Manipur. It was one of the deadliest attacks on forces in the northeastern state in recent years. The unit commanding officer of 46 Assam Rifles, Colonel Viplav Tripathy, along with his wife and his 8-year-old child, also lost their lives in this terror attack. In a joint statement, the People's Liberation Army and the Manipur Naga People's Front has claimed responsibility for this brutal attack. The mortal remains of Colonel Viplav Tripathy, his wife and son, who were killed in a militant attack in Manipur 2 days ago, were brought to their hometown also in Raigad in Chhattisgarh. Colonel Tripathy was the commanding officer of the Kuga battalion of the Assam Rifles. His wife Anuja, son, 5-year-old child, son and 4 personnel of the paramilitary forces were killed in an ambush by militants in the northeastern state on Saturday. A special plane of the Indian Air Force carrying the mortal remains of the martyred colonel, his wife, his son, landed at an airstrip in Raigad this afternoon earlier. Colonel Viplav Tripathy's youngest brother and the state's higher education minister also, along with the MP of Raigad and other local MLAs, district administration and police officials were at the airstrip to in fact receive the last remains of Colonel Viplav Tripathy, his wife and his 5-year-old son. What we know is that the bodies have been taken in an open flower deck truck to Colonel Tripathy's home. These are pictures in fact on your screens from that earlier today. The mortal remains will in fact right now is kept at the Ramlila ground for the people to pay their last respects. The final rites also is going to be held in the evening at a crematorium near Circuit House is what we are picking up, with full military and state honors. The colonel, his 5-year-old child and also his wife were killed in the attack on Saturday. This was an ambush. In this ambush, 4 other personnel of the paramilitary forces also lost their lives. They were killed in an ambush by militants in the northeastern state of Manipur on Saturday afternoon. The mortal remains of Colonel Viplav Tripathy, his wife and his son has now been brought to their hometown of Raigad in Chhattisgarh. Earlier today, we saw a special plane of the Indian Air Force carrying the mortal remains of the martyred colonel. He was the commanding officer of 46 Assam Rifles, his wife and son, and that landed in an airstrip in Raigad in the afternoon. Colonel Viplav's younger brother also, who is in fact an army man himself, Lieutenant Colonel Khatnei Konyak, the state's higher education minister, also the MP and MLAs here, other officials were present to receive the last remains of Colonel Viplav Tripathy, his wife and his 5-year-old child. We're leaving you with those visuals. It's time for a quick commercial break here. We'll get you more details of the pollution in the national capital, but shifting our focus back to what's happening as far as Raigad is concerned. Today, India is paying its last respects to its fallen heroes. The wreath-laying ceremony of Rifleman Suman Swargiary of 46 Assam Rifles was held in Jorhat today. The mortal remains of Rifleman R.P. Meena was also brought to Jaipur today, where people paid their last tribute to the brave heart. A total of 5 soldiers, remember, were killed in a terror attack on a convoy of Assam Rifles in Churachandpur on Saturday. It was one of the deadliest attacks on forces in the northeastern state of Manipur in recent years. The unit commanding officer of 46 Assam Rifles, Colonel Viplav Tripathy, and his wife and his child, 5-year-old son, also lost their lives in the terror attack. In a joint statement, the People's Liberation Army and the Manipur Naga People's Front claimed responsibility for this brutal attack. Abhishek Balla is getting us more details on that story. Abhishek, What a tragedy that we saw unfold in Manipur on Saturday. And the worrying bit, of course, here is that this is a return really of insurgency again in the northeastern state of Manipur with such a daring attack that has taken the life of a colonel and his immediate family, isn't it?
Well, Shah, for the first time in many, many years, the insurgents had, targeted an officer's family, even though in their statement later they clarified that they were not aware that the family was traveling and that the Indian forces should be careful, and since these are disturbed areas, they should not allow their family members to be in these places. But the fact remains that there is enough indication to suggest, as far as the probe is concerned, that the officer's family was targeted and that the militants were fully aware that the officer was traveling with his family, and it was the commanding officer who was targeted because, he had been a bit of a trouble for the insurgents before coming to Manipur. He was in Mizoram, commanding his battalion of the Assam Rifles, and now in Manipur, he had cracked down on the smuggling mafia, the drug mafia, close to the borders, which are controlled by these groups. So it's very clear that it was a targeted killing and a paradigm shift from the past when these groups did not actually attack non-combatants and certainly never attacked families of security force personnel who were posted in these conflict zones.
That's right. Abhishek, you do seem to be suggesting that because of Colonel Viplav Tripathy's previous posting also, there is a possibility that this in fact was some sort of a retaliation?
Yes, it was a targeted killing. This is what multiple sources have told us, and this is based on whatever information has been gathered post the attack as part of a probe. Also, it's amply clear that the militants had crossed over from Myanmar. There are several camps in Myanmar. In the past, the Indian forces have carried out, several operations where these camps have been targeted. And the Indian forces had, in fact, got a lot of success in the last 3 to 4 years, neutralizing militants. Also, cracking down on these hideouts, these camps that are across the border. And this particular incident has taken place barely 3 kilometers from the border area. And it's very clear now that, in fact, a crossover action did take place. And after attacking the convoy, which included the quick reaction team of the commanding officer, the militants have perhaps fled back to these places. But over the last 2-3 days, the intelligence grid has been beefed up, and all information is being gathered for the Indian forces to carry out a retaliatory action.
Abhishek, continue to be with us to tell our viewers. In fact, these are pictures coming in from Raipur where Colonel Viplav Tripathy, remember he was the commanding officer of 46 Assam Rifles, his wife and child were among the 7 dead in an ambush by terrorists in Manipur on Saturday afternoon. The commanding officer, in fact, had gone to a forward camp and was returning when his convoy was ambushed. His last remains, along with the remains of his wife and child, have been taken to Raipur. Raigad. Abhishek continues, in fact, to be with us. Abhishek, you did mention that there is some sort of, increase in presence of security officers also in the region as far as the troubled region of Churachandpur is concerned in Manipur. It's been peaceful, fairly peaceful in so many years. But there is, in fact, significant presence of the army now where forces have been increased. Talk us through those details as well.
Well, it's a multi-pronged approach, Sneha. The paramilitary forces, which includes the Assam Rifles, along with the army in some areas, and the state police, are obviously trying to zero in on the perpetrators. They're trying to ascertain more facts about who was behind this conspiracy. And all this is part of an investigation that is continuing right now. And, it's once an attack like this happens, this happened back in 2015 as well, when the Indian Army was targeted in Manipur, when 18 soldiers were killed. We are across the borders. There was an operation which involved...
Okay, we'll just try and... Yes, Abhishek, carry on.
Yes, I'm saying that in the past, the army targeted specific camps of groups that were behind that attack. So, we wouldn't like to speculate. We wouldn't want to give out any information that would be, that would create any trouble as far as these operations are concerned. But this is standard operating procedure. When something like this has happened, of course, the forces on the ground will plan a retaliatory action. And when it happens, how it happens is for the forces to decide. But definitely they are trying to zero in on the particular camps, on the leaders who are behind this conspiracy.
Abhishek, thanks for getting us up to speed with those developments. India paying their last respects to the braveheart Colonel Viplav Tripathy, his wife and his 8-year-old son.